My name is Dakaxeen. I'm a member of the Duklawili Kiit House of the Tlingit tribe, and I live here in Fairbanks, Alaska. My day job is a professor of native arts at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, but I'm also a husband and a father, an artist, and sometimes a mechanic.
All I did was pull it out of the other one, clean it, and paint it, and put it into here, your distributor, and there you go. And the carburetor was off of one of the other rigs that I grabbed. Just a fun little side project, I guess.
So my family, we trace our cultural heritage to Klukwan, but I was born here in Fairbanks. I've had an experience of being kind of an urban native in Anchorage, and then also having an experience of a rural hippie life in Fairbanks, growing up without electricity or running water or phones, had no television growing up. Everything was heated by wood, and all the cooking was done on the wood stove. You know, and having this experience of growing up in the forest, you know, is something that I really treasured, that ability to be so close to natural cycles, and I collect materials out in the forest, and so it's part of my working environment. You know, I think it informs my psyche on thinking about my place within the world. And we live not far from the pipeline. Actually, we're just maybe a mile and a half down the road is the pipeline, and we have a trail from our backyard that, you know, it becomes this way of traveling through the landscape, and I've definitely always reflected on this scar, right? This huge line that just goes through the landscape, up and over mountains and across rivers, and you know, we'll go out sledding there, we'll go out walking there, we'll actually collect blueberries there. So it's this interesting relationship with that artery of oil that has for a long time paid for state revenue, but that dependency, I don't know if it outweighs the cost within our ability to live off the land still. This concept of being, you know, an urban native, right? Not necessarily, you know, growing up in Fairbanks and Anchorage is outside of our cultural center, which would be Southeast Alaska, the Haines, Juneau area, south and going down. You know, and so having internal knowledge that I am of this culture, Tlingit, but also not having the culture as part of a daily aspect of life or surrounded in every way. I think it was kind of natural to start exploring this idea of being somebody of mixed race, of mixed cultures, and how those influence my work, and really kind of started my exploration in this idea of what it is to be, you know, a Native man today in Alaska, in the world. I have for a long time used self-portraiture as a tool to speak about issues in the world, and it's a purposeful strategy because it's, I think every time you stand up and you say you're from a culture, there might be an assumption that you're speaking for the culture. And I've always wanted to make sure that everyone understands that I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for all Tlingit people. Some of that was just kind of personal exploration for myself, and then some of that was looking at the constructs of Native identity around us, and particularly looking at laws, you know, were written to say that to claim yourself as a Native artist, you had to be 1/4 blood ancestry. And it was so strange to be able to pull up these files from the Bureau of Indian Affairs and have your certificate of Indian blood given to you by the government, and have these forms placed upon us, and really made me start thinking about how this really creates a division in somebody's psyche as they're growing up, to know that, oh, you're this much or you're that much. having this this split beard definitely made me think quite a bit about having a physical representation of a split cultural heritage, and then also having a physical manifestation of the markings of the killer whale. And I had an opportunity through the Anchorage Museum to do a response to one of their large exhibitions of Arctic ambitions, looking at Captain Cook's travels through the Arctic. I wanted to do this piece about that referencing of the discoverer as hero. You know, why are we still celebrating the colonizer, the conqueror, the discoverer, right? This guy that is credited for discovering this land, but realizing that we have scientific proof that Tlingit people have been here for at least 10,000 years. And something strange happened within that day. As I was doing this work, it was almost like I was invisible, right? I had all this gear out there. I had, my camera and tripods, and I've got my kind of different wardrobe that's laid out that I'm changing. And so as visitors would come in and out of the space, it was as if I was invisible. I only had one instance where somebody asked me what I was doing, and I explained to them that this was Captain Cook, and there's a exhibition, and I'm doing kind of a response to that. The only couple that stopped and asked the question, they were from Australia, and they were very excited because they were like, "Yeah, Captain Cook discovered us too." So finding my song was really about a story, right? The story of our family and a story of cultural loss or loss of language, but also a recognition that there is a renaissance of culture that is going on right now. What are those elements of culture that define you? And language being one of them.
Conal Cheese, thank you. Ik say Han, I love you. Cow, drum, keet, killer whale.
And it was a story of my grandmother who, walking through the grocery store, saw this soap and had this visceral reaction, and said she could still remember the taste of that. This story that I think many Indigenous people can relate to, or have similar stories of her being punished, speaking Tlingit in school, literally having that language scrubbed or washed away from her. That made me think about my own responsibilities as a father and being a member of culture, and so the last portion of this installation was a series of 18 drums with video projections of myself singing our clan songs over and over again. And so it starts off with one very quiet voice, and then another round of the song being sung, getting louder, and ending in a chorus of 18 voices being sung at once. Really trying to emphasize that, that renaissance that I see, and more people being involved in the culture and wanting to have that as part of their life. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey.